Oh no. Oh no.
You have allergies?
No, I just get like congested in the morning.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Every time I've slept over, yeah, like I mean, we're both that way. Like
Yeah.
I know that we both kind of just end up like sniffling and stuff in the morning.
But also, yes, I have allergies. Oh my god! Welcome, everyone. Welcome to the Good Games Podcast. I'm James.
I'm Leo.
And today we are going to be discussing the visual novel, Doki Doki Literature Club.
Indeed.
And then we are going to be discussing our top 5 story-based video games. So what did you think of Doki Doki Literature Club?
I give it an 8 out of 10.
Wow, that's that sure is a number.
Yeah. It was good, and it was like, an enjoyable I think we have to give a brief kind of disclaimer to this episode.
Yeah. Yes.
I think we're gonna go into spoilers here, right?
Yes, absolutely. That's a very good point. So Doki Doki Literature Club is it is a visual novel that makes it wants you to think that it's all about dating. It's like one of those like dating sim visual novels, and it is that to a certain extent, but it is also much more. And the game is much better if you don't know what the surprises are that it's going to throw at you. So, having said that, if you have not played Doki Doki Literature Club, it is free. It is free.
It's free,
You can get it for free on Steam, and I think also on Team Salvato's website for free. That's nothing. You pay nothing, and you get to have a fun experience.
So stop this podcast and go play the game.
Yes.
And then come back.
Yes, absolutely. It's only, I don't know, between 2, 3, 4, 5 hours, something like that. It's not that long. And it's good. This is the cutoff point. Beyond here, there will be spoilers. You have been warned. Here we go. All right. Let's get into this.
Okay.
So, is it worth recapping the events of the game so that we have, I don't know, a foundation to build our discussion on?
Well, you know what? I have an idea, and I don't know how you planned on going through it, but what if we step through it together?
Yeah,
and then
that's good.
When we hit a certain milestone, like I feel like the first milestone is it's pretty, everyone knows about it. We'll kind of take a break and say like what we think about it so far.
I think the very first thing that is notable about this game is when you boot it up, it has a content warning that says like, this game is not for those who are like easily disturbed or something.
Yeah.
Which if for some reason you have stumbled across Doki Doki Literature Club without knowing at all what it is, that's the first indication that like, like something's up with this game, right?
Something's not what it should be,
Right.
Yeah.
But then the game goes on for a long time without showing its hand at all. So it starts out like you are I guess you are like a Japanese schoolboy, and you're whatever in high school, and you're like walking to class with like your like girl next door friend who is Sayori, who is like encouraging you to get involved in clubs at school. So you join, at her suggestion, you join the literature club, which is why this is Doki Doki Literature Club. And in the literature club, there are like 3 other girls who are to some extent like romantic interests, right? And that's like the first setup to this game is like, which one of these cute girls do you want to date or whatever?
All right, so let me talk about this. Let's talk about that, just that aspect of the game, right?
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, it was a big chunk of it, if we're being honest.
Yep.
First of all, I gotta say, I liked trying to court one of these girls.
Uh-huh.
That was a fun experience for me. They were very attractive.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like they had a good future as women, potential mothers. I mean, I feel like I could see myself with them for the rest of my life. So what I'm trying to say is I might have fallen in love a little bit.
Oh my God. Which girl did you fall in love with?
I think all of them.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's the thing. There are four girls. I mentioned Sayori before. There's also like Natsuki, who is like this like little angry girl.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't like her that much.
There is Yuri, who is like this really nervous, bookish type. And then there is Monica, who is I don't know how to describe.
She was a leader.
She's kind
type.
of the leader.
Yeah, she's a type A personality.
Yeah, she's like the one organizing everything. She's a little more confident than any of the other girls. I was immediately attracted to Monica,
right.
But the way the game works is like, okay, it is a visual novel, but one of the things that makes this game interactive is every session after the literature club meets, you go home and you have to write a poem to present at the next literature club. And the way the poem writing works is you pick, I think, 20 different words, and the words you pick are ascribed to one of the girls in the club. But there's only three girls, Natsuki, Yuri, and Sayori. And so, like, I think Sayori likes all of the, like, cutesy words, and Yuri likes all of the, like, bigger word, the more bookish and, like, more darker words.
Darker,
and then
right? She's
Natsuki,
into, like, horror and stuff, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and Natsuki, I never got her. I mean, she likes some of the cutesy stuff, too, but, like, I couldn't make a differentiation between like what was going to trigger the things that Natsuki liked and the things that Sayori liked. The thing that was annoying to me is that like, hey, I want to impress Monica. Like, where are the words that like, why am I tunneled into just these three girls? Like, right. I'm more interested in Monica the whole time, which I don't think that's what the game wants you to do the first time around. We'll get to that point. We'll get to that point.
Yeah, they're trying to force you into a certain path, right? I mean, that's really what it comes down to. But I agree, it was frustrating when you're playing and you don't know,
Yeah. Which of these three girls were you trying to impress?
So when I say any of them, I really mean it. Like,
oh, okay, all right.
I was just choosing random words, and when one girl seemed interested in me, I was, oh, you like that? Okay? I'll write more of that. And so, like, I think the first time I accidentally impressed Yuri,
mm-hmm.
and then I accidentally impressed Sayori.
Oh, okay.
And I was like, I'll take both of you. Like, come on, yeah. So, it's weird because like I didn't have as easy of a time establishing which, like, what words and stuff in that whole like word selection. You select 20 words.
I
had a hard time differentiating like which actual words led to what my poem was.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I've talked to a few people about this game who agree that mechanic, while it's really like neat, it's a little I don't know, it just feels a little disconnected from like the end product of that poem you're writing.
Sure, yeah. And the other weird thing is you never see what the poem you wrote was. Like the other girls do, and they like make reactions to it. Like if you choose a bunch of like whatever bookish words, then Yuri will get really excited and Natsuki will be angry, or vice versa. Yuri will be like, this is a dumb poem, and Natsuki will be like, you did such a good job, or whatever,
All right.
But you never get to see what you wrote, which is sort of interesting. I don't know. So I think the next story beat that happens, the next like significant story beat that happens, is dependent on all of these poems that you've written. You either get a date with, you get like a hangout session with either Yuri or Natsuki, depending on the poems that you wrote. Now, which of these two girls did you hang out with?
So, I mean, I really tried desperately to hang out with both. I was trying to be very nice to both women. I ended up having Yuri come over. I mean, I felt like she was a little aggressive. Like I was trying to like step off. I'm trying to get with Sayori too, but she just wouldn't have it. She had to come over.
So like during that session, it is hinted that like Yuri has like a knife fetish and may or may not like to cut herself.
Wait, what? You got it that early?
Yeah, I mean,
No.
yeah, because you're like clipping the paper, right? Yeah, you're like clipping the paper, and then like Yuri gets up close to you and is like, "Oh, like I really like knives, and like I have a whole collection of knives, and like,
Oh, okay, yeah, okay, I forgot that.
yeah, there's some hint, and you're like, what? And then like that scene just kind of ends, and you're like, okay, that was really weird.
Yeah.
Which then, after that, I think the next story beat is that Sayori confesses that she's fallen in love with you, and that's like the girl next door that you've like grown up with and like have known for forever.
Right.
Now, did you? I I looked up. I looked up actually what happens with this, and it turns out it doesn't matter either way. But did you reciprocate Sayori's affection? I'm assuming you did.
I actually did not.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So Sayori says, "I love you. Do you love me?" And you said no.
Maybe I did say yes.
Okay. Well,
I have to go back. No, I think. Okay. All right. Okay. All right. Okay. I remember thinking that I should click no. Because I felt like I was starting to understand what was going on. You know, she seemed like, I think up until this point she had like not gone to literature club like one day or something.
Oh right,
So,
we skipped a part where Sayori reveals that she has like crippling depression, and like
exactly.
Sometimes she won't go to class because like she feels like there's no point in getting out of bed. We skipped that.
Exactly.
Yep.
Yeah. So at this point, we already know that she's battling depression. So like I thought, the whole "I love you" thing, especially when she explains how like, if she's with you as the main character, she would be happy, but then she would also be sad because she feels like she's forcing you into this. And and I figured if she's not with you, she'll probably always also be sad because she loves you. So, but I thought it would just be better if I said, "No, I don't love you. I don't want you to feel like I'm saying I love you just because, I was really into this part. Like I was thinking this through, but I think I did end up clicking I love you.
So at this point in the game, my investment in it was dwindling. I was like,
yes.
I know that there's something up with this game, and I've been playing for about 2 hours, and the game has not shown me what it has up its sleeve yet. So I was just trying to like, okay.
Yeah. See, I think we're both felt the same way. Like up until the whole "I love you" talk. Like,
yeah,
really, I'll be honest. About 30 minutes before the "I love you" talk, I was skipping text.
Oh no. Okay.
I was so that's probably why I missed the knife thing. I was fatigued. And that's one of my major problems with this game. Like literally, I was just, oh come on, skip the, let's go. This is so boring. And I don't know if I'm just like losing patience with games or something, but so I feel you. I felt that fatigue at this point already.
Yeah, I was never, I don't know, I was never bored by it, but I knew that this game had a secret that it hadn't shown me yet, and I was just, like, all right, come on, show me what this is.
Yeah.
So after you tell Sayori that you love you, or that you love her, or you don't, the next day at school, she does not show up to class.
Right.
And so you're like, oh God, where's Sayori? So you go all the way back to her house, go in her room, and this is where the game really takes a turn because Sayori has hung herself. God damn it.
You walk into the room. It's dark.
Yep.
You notice her backpack, which she always carried, is in the corner. Odd how you notice those types of things before anything else.
Yeah.
In those types of situations. And then a swaying foot hits your elbow, and you realize she's been hanging there the whole time.
Yep.
I don't know. Yeah, that was the first kind of big like, whoa. Right?
So this is where the game starts to get weird. So Sayori hangs herself, and you're confronted with a picture of Sayori dead. And then the game kind of starts to like glitch out a little bit, and then it reboots. And when you get back to the title screen, previously the title screen had all four of these girls on it. When you get back to the title screen, Sayori is all glitched out. Like the image of Sayori is all messed up. And when you hit continue game, the game starts over from the very beginning, and you start playing through it again. But this time around, there is no Sayori, right?
Yeah. You know, I actually, when I wound up back on the main title, I tried loading a save.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
What did that do? Hold on a second. What did that do?
Yeah. They were all gone.
Yep.
Which pissed me off. I was just fed up. I was like, really? You throw down, this is finally the thing, and now I want to go back and see what happens if I tell her I don't love her because it was tearing me apart that I made a decision there. And I can't go back? Like, what?
Yeah, so there is a point. I've actually looked up a bit about how this game works. There's a point of no return when I think it's before Sayori tells you that she loves you. There's a point of no return there, and actually, even prior to that, Monica will break the fourth wall for the first time and say, "Hey, it's a good idea for you to save your game," which I don't think anyone. I mean, your first time around, nobody really notices that. You're just like, okay, it's the game. It's like one of those dumb things where the game is like, hey, you should save.
It's played off as like a tip. Like, here's your tip for the game.
Here's your tip. Save the game. Yeah. That is the first hint that Monica is she's more than what she seems she is, but Monica is self-aware. That's the first hint that Monica might be self-aware. Because she breaks the fourth wall and tells you, not your player character, you, the person playing the game, to like gives you an instruction to save the game, which most people will probably just brush off like, oh, okay, it's the game reminding you to save. But that is actually really important later. If you don't make a save there after Sayori dies, all your saves are gone. Yeah, so
okay.
Yep. So that is when I was like, oh hell yeah! Like I love this sort of thing. I love this sort of thing where you replay a scenario multiple times, but it's different a little bit every time. Like Groundhog Day. I love when games do that. Like the Stanley Parable did that a lot. I'm trying to think of other games that did that. Anyway, that like tickled my fancy. So I loved replaying the whole game without Sayori. I don't know. Like I like that a lot.
I was not a fan.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I get what they were trying to do, and I do love Groundhog Day. But the game, that first part of the game was just so brutal, so like laborious for me, I will say, that I found myself speeding up the text after Sayori died too. A little bit.
No,
I mean, I got a few of the hints, and I would slow it down like when I saw something started to be a little bit different, but I was like. I was kind of like skimming the text. I was like kind of fast reading. I don't know, man.
Oh, I was 1,000%. Well, I was very invested after the little restart there.
It's just too long. That whole part of the game is too long. It's too much dialogue.
Maybe the setup is, but after the turn there, then I was like, oh hell yeah, let's do this. And in addition to Sayori no longer being in the game, there's a couple weird instances where, like, you'll start seeing text glitch out, and you'll start seeing, like, images glitch out. That's where I was like, yes, I am in. Like, that's my other thing. Like, in addition to that format where you, like, replay a scenario multiple times and, like, things are slightly different, I love...
You like fourth wall breakage.
I like fourth wall breakage, which is another thing this game does very well. But I like the video game, the intentional video game glitch aesthetic.
Okay. Yeah. You know, it reminded me of like Metal Gear Solid when they start like glitching out the game, like at the end of one.
Yeah. All of the in the original, like some of the Psycho Mantis stuff, the fourth wall breaking stuff. But like these are like intentional, like. You'll start seeing images glitch out. You'll start seeing the text glitch out. Yeah. You'll start seeing like characters say weird things that you know that they like characters start swearing, like
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
the text is subtly different than it was the first time around, and it's always a little more dark.
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, whoa, that was different from the first time around, and that got way more dark. Let's see what happens after that.
So,
The game's yeah, go ahead.
Okay, well the next big part for me was when I started finally slowing down and paying attention to the text was towards the end of the first. I think it might have even been on the second day, and then I started to notice a lot of the things we talked about. There's definitely some swearing and some personalities that were askew, and then this is what really got me.
Yeah,
Yuri pulled me aside.
Oh yeah,
and all the other characters seem to know that we kind of had a thing going,
Yep.
And then and she was still pretty cute, but I started to get some weird vibes from her, So yep. I was still looking for a date. I mean, I know my best friend died, but I was still looking for a date.
Okay.
And so then she like puts me in a closet, and I'm like, this is great. I think maybe we'll make out. I've been in this situation before.
Yeah, that's not what happens though.
Okay, can I just say that when Yuri gives you these crazy girl eyeballs and gets like the characters are always kind of a certain size on the screen to imply how far away they are.
Yep.
And then she's just like huge. She takes up the whole screen. She's up in your face.
Mm-hmm.
Her eyes are huge, like open wide, and her pupils are tiny. And she has this crazy smile on for like a second. I mean, it was like, because then the doors open and Monica's like, "What are you guys doing in here?" But for that second, I almost shit my pants. Like that was terrifying. And that's when I realized I'm playing a horror game and I am afraid.
Yes, this is definitely a horror game in disguise. Absolutely. So I think the next the game goes on for a while with the weird like glitch aesthetics and like messed up text and images and stuff, which I loved. It was one of my favorite parts. Then it gives you another decision, like who do you want to like hang out with? So the first time it was sort of decided by the poems. This time there's like an explicit like who do you want? Do you want to help Yuri, Natsuki, or Monica? And your cursor is automatically guided to Monica.
Yeah.
And if you pick anything else, the cursor just slides back to Monica.
Yeah.
And if you click Monica, like if you click anything else, like all the options disappear, and then Monica is the only option left. And you like click Monica's name, and then the camera like zooms in on her sprite. That was amazing. I loved that.
Yeah, that was pretty funny.
So then Monica gets really happy that you picked her because you had no other choice.
When was Yuri's like little knife?
Yeah, so I think it's shortly after that. Does Yuri do the same thing? I think Yuri tells you that she loves you or something like that.
Yeah.
And then regardless of whether or not you reciprocate her love, she just whips out a knife and starts stabbing herself in the belly.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then the game super glitches out. The text just goes crazy, and you're like stuck in the classroom with her corpse for like 3 days over the weekend.
Hold on. Before that though, did you get the arm one though? The arms?
The arms?
Yeah, no, there was a scene where Yuri goes out to get like water. And I guess it was because I'd chosen to, I don't know, kind of still pursue her. And you go out and the hallways are empty. And then you turn a corner and like towards the water, and you just hear like a sound and her like some like I don't know. I didn't quite understand what they were going for. If it was like her making noises like like that or something. I don't know. And then you turn a corner, and out of nowhere, the game just pops up to you. Yuri like cutting her arms. Like I mean, in a very gory way. Like I mean, there's blood, and that was such a like shocking like. Whoop. But the weird thing is, as soon as you see that, the game kind of zips back to the classroom and acts as if that never happened. Yeah. But then later on, you find out Yuri's like, also like stabs herself and then like dies. Yeah. And then you spend the night with the nights with the body. That was weird.
You spend the whole weekend with her corpse, and then I think Natsuki comes back in and then like vomits, and then Monica comes back in, and Monica's like, "Oh, oops." I guess she went a little crazy or something. Then the game reboots again, and you're just face to face with just Monica. Uh, and Monica informs you that she has been self-aware this whole time. She is aware that to some extent she is aware that she's in a video game, and she also has to some extent control over the game's code and has been altering the code. So she's been altering the code with the intent of making the other girls less attractive and thereby making her the most desirable girl, right? So she made like Yuri or Sayori more obsessive or more depressive. Then altered the code to make Yuri's knife fetish go out of control and kill herself, right?
Yeah.
Then she straight up admits that she has deleted all of the other character files, and she is the only character who is left in the game. So the next thing that happens, this is what got me. This is what sent the chills right up my spine. I had been okay. So at the very beginning of the game, it asks you to enter your name, which I put like Dorf or the Dorf, which is my Smash tag, which is actually sort of a weird coincidence. I'll get back to that in a second. But she says, "Hey, your name isn't actually Dorf, is it?" No, it's not. It's James. And that was like, what? Did that happen to you too?
Yeah, I mean, I was using Leo, but
okay.
She was like, well, yeah, I'm telling you, I was really trying to get with these girls, and I think she was like, yeah, Leo, or is it Elgerez PC?
Oh no!
I was like, oh, no, it's definitely Leo.
Oh, so you had like the opposite thing.
Yeah.
Because I think what the game tries to do is it pulls your Windows domain name, I think, or your NT login or something, to try to figure out what your real name was. Which on my PC, that's my actual name. Like that's my Windows name is James. So like it worked in that instance, and I was like, oh my god, like what is happening?
Yeah,
so then Monica starts directly addressing you, the person playing the game, like not your player character avatar. Like she's talking directly to you, and she's like, "Yeah, I've fallen in love with you, and I really want to get to know you, and all this stuff."
Mm-hmm.
Like I loved that. Like I love because like the whole so the beginning of the game is like this weird like dating sim visual novel, right? When it's like, oh, which of these girls do you like which of these girls you want to fall in love with? But like the twist is like, no, this game has been playing you haven't been playing the game's been playing you, and one of the girls is obsessed with you, like not your player character, you the person playing the game.
Yeah,
like I loved that idea.
Yeah.
What did you think of this part of the game? Because I was like, I was 1,000% invested in this part of the game.
Yes, at this point, I was fully in it. I didn't skip any more text and stuff. This was really what I came here for.
Yep.
And I gotta say, when she, confessed your love for me as the player, I took it as a sign of like everything she talked about doing so far was really a great sign of ambition and strength. And if she wanted to get some coffee, I was into it.
No, I was super creeped out, especially when the game correctly guessed my name.
That was very creepy.
Like for a second there, like as like even as somebody who's played a ton of games and who is somebody who is a computer programmer and knows how a lot of these tricks work, like that like my suspension of disbelief was so strong that all of that knowledge went out the window, and I was like, oh god, this game is after me now.
It was
oh god, what is this game doing?
It was kind of scary, when she starts talking to you like that. I was a little on edge for sure,
especially like having the game correctly guess my name. I was like, oh no, what sorcery is this? What is going on?
And what's funny is I actually had already been poking around through the game files a little bit.
Oh, okay. So at that point, I had not, because there's a couple extremely subtle hints that like So I think when Sayori kills herself, there's
Yes.
something that there's like a crash log that says like wrote log to whatever error.txt or something like
That's the
that.
one. Yes.
There's a couple extremely subtle hints that there's something going on with the game code, but I had not checked it
So
until
so
Monica.
I had, because of the fact that my saves were cleared. So I was
Oh,
pissed
okay,
off
okay,
at
yep.
the fact that
Mm-hmm.
I lost my saves, and I saw that crash earlier, and I was like, you know what? Let me check the code. Are my effing saves there? And I went, and then I found out that there was, like, a text file that says something like, let me out, or like,
Yep.
there it
There's
had
like
some
all these,
hints.
and if you open it, there's like all these really creepy drawings or extremely creepy poems.
Yes, I saw like one creepy drawing and stuff. Yes, yes. So I started seeing stuff like that earlier on, which added to the immersiveness of being creeped out, but at the time didn't
Mm-hmm.
make any sense. So I don't know how
Right.
you felt when Monica really like explains what she was doing, controlling all these characters and stuff. At this point, I was like, "Oh my god, you are in the files."
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah. No, that's. I made the revelation there, like in that moment,
yeah,
because she starts talking about like, oh, I deleted all the character files, and I
you're
think she
right.
tells you like where they're in this folder, and she's like, you bought the game on Steam, so they're in this folder. I'm like, oh no, like how does she know all these things? Like,
That's awesome,
um,
man.
so I think if you keep playing the game, like it'll keep rebooting itself, and Monica will keep coming back up, and she'll keep having like conversations with you.
Oh,
And
okay.
then like if you close the game or if you Alt F4 and like go back in, she'll be like, "Oh, what happened? I had weird dreams" or something like that, which is cool. But I think at that point, if you go into the character files, you can either delete Monica or you can. Yeah, I think the first thing most people do is try to delete Monica,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, that's what I did.
So if you delete Monica's character file and relaunch the game, they'll
Well,
be like, "Oh,
Well,
Monica's
well,
like, how
well, well,
could
well, first of
you?"
all, as you delete her, she starts to deteriorate into this like,
Yeah, yeah,
artifact of like, she's like, what's happening? Like, I don't know. Yeah, right. You
uh-huh. And then yeah, she's like, "How could you? Whatever, whatever. I
right.
can't believe you did this." She's like, "Fine, I'll restore all of the characters back," or something like that.
Right.
So then, if you go back into the character folder, Sayori, Yuri, and Natsuki are all back, but there's no Monica. So then you
Mm-hmm.
start the game a third time from the beginning and start playing through it. And this time there's no Monica, but like the game is still there's still something clearly wrong because like Sayori then becomes the president of the club, but then Sayori starts freaking out again because like Sayori can to some extent tell that there's something not right. And at this point I wasn't sure if like Monica was still pulling the strings from beyond somewhere,
Mm-hmm.
if like Monica was still in the code, or if like it was like this game is cursed and whoever is the literature club president will always be like self-aware or something. I wasn't really clear on what was happening. But eventually the game will start freaking out again. Sayori will freak out and Monica will come back. And I think at that point she like wipes
Yeah.
everything, and the game, and she says like the end, whatever. The credits roll, and then the game becomes unplayable unless you reinstall it.
Yeah. Yeah. This is a big, like, interesting thing for me. But I
Uh huh.
didn't like that. but I get it.
Well, that's actually a. I looked up again how this game works. That's actually apparently the bad ending of the game
Uh,
is if you end up like that, where Monica whatever comes back and wipes everything. That was like the bad ending. What you're supposed to do is when Monica, the first time she breaks the fourth wall and tells you to save your game, if you make a save point there, you can go back and experience like the date with either Yuri or Natsuki, depending on whatever. The point is, you're supposed to do all of the different endings, and if you've done all of the different endings and then do all this stuff, instead of the game freaking out again and Monica coming back, like Sayori will just come up and say like, "Oh, like thank you for whatever spending so much time with us" or something like that, and then like you get like the good ending or something like that. Because then the credits roll and it's like happy music as opposed to, I think the music gets really creepy, right? Or no, it's Monica sings you a song. That's what it
yeah,
is,
that's right.
right?
Yeah.
That was
That
super
was very
creepy.
creepy. That was very creepy.
um,
I saw the video of like the good ending because I got that really shitty ending, and then I
Uh-huh.
was like, what is the deal? Like I have to reinstall my game. This is BS. And then I saw the good ending. Did you see what happens kind of at the end?
I just read that there was a good ending.
Okay.
I didn't actually watch it or experience it.
So I think you'd like it. It was really cool because basically, I don't know who did it first or something, but it was almost like a Willy Wonka-esque thing where like the author, the developer of the game,
Mm-hmm.
the main guy actually writes you a letter.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, it shows up on the screen, and it was like, thank you for playing this game and for taking the time to, go through and like go all the saves and stuff, and
Yep.
talked about, I don't know, I think he talks about like depression and stuff, and talks about, I don't know, just real deep topics and stuff. But it's basically like a letter to the player saying thank you and whatever, and that was kind of neat.
Yeah, we should actually mention, I forgot to mention who the developer of this game is. It's a guy named Dan Salvato, which when I realized that he made this game, I lost my mind because I recognized his name from the Smash community. He is a very prominent member in like the Smash hacking community. He was really involved with Project M. He is very involved with the Melee 20XX hack pack. If you've ever used like the 20XX training pack for Melee.
Yeah.
He was also a really prominent Link main in Project M. His smash tag is or was Internet Explorer. So if you know Internet Explorer, I think that was his smash tag. Which was funny that I happened to be playing the game with my smash tag, which is why I said that was funny earlier.
Yeah.
And there are a couple of very subtle Smash references in the game. I think okay, so when the game reboots itself, it has that content warning, right?
Right.
There's a random chance that that content warning will like glitch out or be something different. There's a random chance that the content warning will say Project M died for this.
Oh,
Which
funny.
I would have lost my entire shit if I had solved that content warning.
Uh,
There's also, I think, either Yuri or Natsuki makes a reference to playing Super Smash Brothers or something in the game.
well, now that I've played Doki Doki, him being that involved with the hacking community and everything, now it makes a lot of sense that he did so well with
Yeah.
this game. Yeah.
Yeah.
So overall, though, I think the game was fantastic, and if you've listened this long and not played it, you're an idiot. But you should definitely go play through it to experience it yourself.
Yeah, it is especially if you like I don't know, if you like horror games or well, I mean now if you're listening to this, you have either played the game or you've had the whole game spoiled for you. But it's really cool to have that like unexpected turn in there if you don't know. I mean, to some extent, you're always going to know that this game is hiding a secret, but to find out what that secret is fun. I loved all of the like weird glitch stuff and fourth wall breaking stuff. I loved the idea of Monica being kind of a self-aware villain computer character. I loved that. That was extremely good. And the last thing I want to comment on, because we're running a little long, is the music.
All right.
I loved the music in this. So maybe I'll put a little sample in here. The music is kind of intentionally like simple and like MIDI-ish. The music sounds really amateur, right?
Right.
Which I think is perfect because that's presumably the sort of I think it's going after an aesthetic, right? I think it's trying to emulate the music that you get in a lot of these like whatever like dating sims or visual novels.
It's kind of poking fun at that genre a little bit, like here's your little thing.
Yeah. So I wasn't sure in the beginning whether or not the music was an intentional choice or if it was. I wasn't sure like how intentional that music was, but it is 1,000% intentional. And if you listen to it, there's even like a couple of like off-key notes or some like misplayed notes in a lot of the themes.
Especially post reboot with Monica.
Oh yeah, because then the music starts like glitching
Yeah,
out, playing really slowly, playing out of key, and like
that was cool.
great job with the music.
That was cool.
Great job with the music. Yeah, I loved this. This is one of my
It was really good. It was really good.
this is one of my favorite recent whatever horror games, I guess.
I will say one thing too. I watched the video. I think I sent it to you. And there is a thing with some of the files that like didn't really do anything. You can actually decode them. They're basically like base 64 encrypted or whatever.
Hmm.
And you can figure out what kind of files there are. Some of them are images.
Yeah, some of
And
them are
so,
more creepy poems, creepy images. Yeah.
creepy poems, creepy, and some of those images that were encoded actually hint at the fact that perhaps these characters will be seen again
Oh
in a
yeah.
new horror adventure created by Dan Salvato.
I noticed that they were hinting at a new project or something. So I'm extremely eager to see what his next project will be. Because that,
Yeah.
assuming this is the first game he has made, I mean, I know he's obviously done a ton of stuff with modding and hacking. I don't know. I don't really know if he's made any like other amateur games or something. But if this is his first attempt, like, well done.
Yeah,
Very
incredible.
well done.
Yeah,
Incredible job. So yeah, I'll be looking forward to what comes next from Team Salvato.
for sure.
All right. So our tie-in today is going to be our top 5 story-based games,
Hmm.
which seem to be appropriate for a game like Doki Doki, which was very heavily story involved. What's your number 5?
My number 5 was one that I think you introduced me to, and might be the first Telltale game I ever played.
Oh,
And it's called The Wolf Among Us.
oh yeah, good one.
Yeah. I mean, Telltale, they have a lot of different games, and all of them are very heavily focused on narrative and decision making, and um, a lot of them are themed after different shows and everything that are popular, like The Walking Dead or Game of Thrones. But I was not really interested in any of those games. But The Wolf Among Us was interesting because it was not about any particular existing show or series. Really, it was just this concept of what if these fantasy fable, really is more accurate, characters like the Big Bad Wolf and Snow White and all that were modern day. And
Hmm.
what if you played the Big Bad Wolf, who really wasn't that bad? He's a detective, he's a cop. He just kind of has, like, maybe a drinking problem. And so he's kind of like that character. And it was just very unique setting for me. I mean, I know there's other things that do things with like fable stories being in modern day and everything, but I just felt like they did it really well. And yeah, Telltale does a good job of kind of like giving you good feedback on the decisions you make and everything. So
Yeah, it was I liked the I mean it was a fairy tale adapted for modern day but also skewed really darkly
it was, yeah, it was a
sort of
lot
a
darker. Yeah,
I don't know yeah a dark modern day fairy tale.
yeah,
My
yeah.
number 5 is a horror game also similar to Doki Doki. It is Silent Hill 2.
Oh, okay.
So for anyone who hasn't played Silent Hill 2, this game comes with a pretty major caveat. And I would say, and this is going to sound weird, this game is not fun to play. um,
Oh, okay.
but the story is absolutely sublime in Silent Hill
Wow.
2. So when I say the game's not fun to play, the combat's a little clunky, which is fine because it's a survival horror game, right? And I think if you have too much precision and too much control in a survival horror game, and you become good at it, it stops becoming scary because you're not afraid of anything if you're good enough at the game where you know you're going to kill any monster you encounter. So the combat's a little sloppy and some of the puzzles are not great, but the reason to play this game is for the atmosphere and the story. And one of the things the story does really well is embrace the medium of video games. And this is, I think, the one of the first video games I've seen really do this. So to give a counter example, I think a lot of the stories we see in like games now, especially like big AAA games, they're really cutscene heavy and they're trying to mimic like movie storytelling, right? A lot of the like big AAA storytelling is the same sort of storytelling you'd get in big blockbuster movies. They're very cutscene heavy, like, just high action, high drama, whatever. And Doki Doki is also an example of the opposite of this. It is a story that can only be told in the medium of video games, right? There's no way you could adapt Doki Doki to be a book or a movie or so. It doesn't work. Like, it has to be a video game. It fundamentally has to be a video game in order to tell the story that Doki Doki is trying to tell, right?
Right.
Same thing with Silent Hill. Silent Hill 2 specifically. It uses level design, the medium of level design and monster design, to communicate themes and symbolism in its story. And it is probably not even going to be immediately apparent, even if you're like 5 to 10 hours into the game, until you start digging into the plot of the story and like making some realizations, and you start realizing what's happening in the story in Silent Hill. And then that like totally recontextualizes all of the places that you've been, all of the experiences that you've had, all of the monsters that you've encountered. You're like, oh my God, like that is that way because of this element in the story. It gets meta, and I love that. So yeah, it's an extremely good story. I've sort of been tiptoeing around what the story actually is. So without spoiling anything, the story begins when James Sunderland, who's the main character, gets a letter from his wife asking him to meet her in Silent Hill, but his wife has been dead for a very long time, and that's
creepy.
Yeah, that's the catalyst for the story. So if that sounds interesting to you at all, and you don't mind some clunkier mechanics and puzzle design, I would 1,000% recommend Silent Hill 2.
Cool. I've never played the Silent Hill series that much. I have to go. I have a PS2. I could always go pick that up. Okay, my number 4 is one that you actually introduced me to. And I will say that there's a couple of several games in this series, but I really truly loved the very first one. The game is called 999.
Good choice.
Yeah. This was kind of a horror-y game as well. I don't know what's with these story games being scary, but yeah. I mean, it was a little bit more kind of like murder mystery and puzzles, and like if you guys have ever seen Saw, it was basically anime version of Saw.
Yeah. It's very like murder pulpy.
Yeah, and like murder puzzle.
Yeah.
Like you had to try to escape or figure out your way out or whatever. But what I loved about this game is that literally the emphasis was on the story and the decisions that you made, to the point where, I mean, I don't know how in later games in this series they actually ended up putting mechanics to go back and replay certain scenes and make different decisions to try to get to different endings. But there was still this concept of like so many different endings that you can get, and it was overall very interesting. I trying to figure out like who was like it's kind of a murder mystery and escaping and everything, but kind of an unknown game. So if you haven't checked it out, it's for the Nintendo DS.
It is also all three. So that's the first game in a trilogy called the Nonary games or something like that.
Right.
All three of those games are on Steam. 999, Virtue's Last Reward, and Zero Time Dilemma, I think, is the third one. Yeah. They're all on Steam, and you can get them all in a nice little package.
Yeah, check those out. They're really good.
What are we on? Oh, number 4. My number 4, I've mentioned this before. It is a game called The Beginner's Guide, and in keeping with Doki Doki, it is very meta. It is it's a video game that's very much aware that it is a video game. It is a game made by Davey Wreden, who also co-created the Stanley Parable. So if you've played the Stanley Parable, you know to expect something extremely, extremely meta. Yeah. Only this game does not have the sense of humor. I mean, I guess, some funny parts in it, but it is not jokey. Because I think the main intent of the Stanley Parable is using like video game uh, language to create jokes, and this is using video game like meta video game language to discuss a lot of more heavy topics. So the game, similar to Doki Doki, there's a lot more under the surface than what is initially presented. But the game is initially presented as Davey Wreden, like you are talking directly to Davey Wreden, the game designer. And it's Davey Wreden who has come across a collection of levels that have been made by a creator named Coda, and it's a study of Coda's level design, which eventually turns into a study of Coda, which eventually becomes a commentary on how much can you infer about a person by playing their levels, and then like vice versa. And then it becomes a lot of the game has a lot of different levels and comments on a
deep.
lot of.
It's very deep.
Yeah, it's really good, especially if you're interested in whatever meta storytelling and or game design and or level design. The Beginner's Guide is extremely good.
All right, my number 3 is one I've talked to you about often, and you still don't believe me, but it has a great story. It's called The Last of Us.
Oh yeah, I totally believe you. My hesitation is just with like, I know it's gonna be like high drama, high stress, like, which is fine. Like those types of games are fine, but like for me specifically, I just need something a little less committal, I guess, than to immerse myself in high stress, high drama.
It is very high stress, high drama. That is true. Which is surprising that I played through it.
Tell me about the game. Sell me on this.
I mean, I don't know, man. It's just good.
Okay.
No, I mean, the game is very tropey.
Okay.
But there's just something about something that, even though there's the classic kind of zombie tropes and like the whole beginning is a great example of just your typical kind of like zombie movie and how it starts and everything, and that's fine. But they just it's very cinematic, and for a video game to do such a good job of making you feel like you're watching a movie and then playing that character in the movie, it was just fantastic. I mean, the camera angles, the art style, and the graphics at the time helped with that. I'm not sure how, there is an HD remake available on PS4, I think now. So I'm not sure how relevant that is anymore, but just the story just kind of hooks you from the very beginning, and it's just a classic kind of like apocalyptic deal, but it's just done I mean, I don't know, it's done very well. And I would say that most video games don't even do this good of a job of portraying kind of the classic zombie apocalypse sort of a thing. And then there are some twists, and it's kind of more explorative and stealthy. It's not like you're just kind of running and gunning and killing zombies. It feels very real. It feels like you can die at any second. And then there's this kind of grander story in that this kind of adult dude who's taken on kind of traveling with this younger girl. They come to realize that this girl might be the key to everything, right? So so it's a very, it makes you want to like see what happens and survive, just to see like what happens by the end of the story. So it's really, really good.
My number 3 is I talked about before. It is a game called What Remains of Edith Finch. The premise of this game is that you are a girl returning to your the house that you grew up in, but you're returning by yourself, and all of the family members that you grew up with in this house are now deceased. So she's kind of exploring this house and having all of these recollections about these family members. And each time you have a recollection about a specific family member, it sort of transitions into like a flashback. But the flashbacks are all mechanically and aesthetically unique to the character that you're having a flashback about. So one of the really cool ones was, and it happens early in the game, you're having a recollection of it's a cousin or a niece or something that died really young. So when you're having the flashback about this little girl, everything you're low to the ground, and then like her imagination is still really active. So like everything is cartoony and larger than life, and um, I don't know. It's good. I'm having trouble describing this. It's good though.
Okay, I believe you.
I mean,
it's enough for me to go try it out.
Yeah, you absolutely should. It's good.
So as a summary, it's good.
It's good. It's good.
It's something, and it's good.
It also has a lot of deeper topics, but if you're okay with exploring some deeper topics, check out What Remains of Edith Finch.
Okay, so we're getting to the top 2 here.
Oh, here we go.
Interestingly, I could not choose a single game for my number 2 slot.
Yeah. I'm curious if we're gonna have any overlap here, because thus far we have not.
Yeah. And I noticed that mine are, well, I guess the Wolf Among Us and 999 are more unknown, but like now when I get into like The Last of Us and this number 2 and number 1, they're more like very well known games. I will say for number 2, let's just say anything by BioWare.
Oh wow, okay.
I mean, what has BioWare made that is not a heavy story-driven game
that
true. Has been enjoyed by millions of people? It's weird because they're a more of a AAA studio, and you would expect, I don't know, a lot of times when it comes to story-driven games, you would expect that someone who was more of like an indie game developer can really put their heart and soul into the story and all that. I don't know, man. BioWare just like, they've got the formula. If I had to choose one specific BioWare game, I guess it would be Knights of the Old Republic, maybe like that. I think we've talked about that in the past.
A very good Star Wars RPG.
Yeah. But I mean, story is just heavily involved with all of their games, Dragon Age and Mass Effect series. I mean, just great. And decision making. I think they were kind of like the fathers of making decisions, I would think. Like,
yeah.
And that impacting your game for real. Yeah, I mean, yeah. If look up BioWare as a publisher, pick a game, you'll love it.
Good recommendation. Knights of the Old Republic is a classic Star Wars RPG. Also, Mass Effect, specifically the second Mass Effect game. I love that one. My number two favorite story-based game is also really, really meta. Which I think speaks to my personal preference for this sort of thing. It is Undertale.
Oh yeah.
It's a game that has one or more characters that have a certain degree of self-awareness and can affect. There's well, I don't want to spoil Undertale too much, but it is at the beginning. It's a story about. It's sort of almost like a fairy tale or a fantasy-esque story about a human who falls into a den of monsters who live underground, hence the name Undertale. But the monsters may be more human than they first let on. It's a game that is full of... Okay, so I said before that like Silent Hill embraces video game storytelling in a way that is like, I mean, they obviously have Silent Hill movies. They've adapted that.
I was going to say movies. That, right? But I mean, I see what you're saying though. Like that particular story can only be done in that medium.
Yeah, but that particular story, you can't. You can't adapt that to a movie or a book. Experiencing Silent Hill 2 is fundamental to understanding that story. Anyway, similarly, Undertale does jokes that are only possible if that only land if you have played a ton of video games and are used to the medium of video games and what video games do. And there are only jokes that are possible in video games. So two jokes spring to mind. The first is right at the very beginning of the game. So this you're playing as this human who has stumbled into this den of monsters, and one of the very first ones you meet is kind of this kind motherly figure. And one of the first areas you go into, there's all of these like platforms of spikes, and you're like, okay, I think I see how this works. I just have to like avoid the spikes or whatever. But then like the monster just grabs your hand, and like it's just a cutscene where she just guides you through the spikes, and then she's like, yeah, don't worry about it, like those look dangerous, we'll just go on to the next room. And you're just like, what, wait, what? Like, so that whole setup with the spikes was just for a joke, like, okay. And my other favorite joke, and this is like, this is proof that Toby Fox, the creator of Undertale, not only has a good grasp on like the anatomy of a joke, but also a good grasp on game design and how to adapt that humor to how to adapt the anatomy of a joke to the medium of video games. So the joke is you're on the phone with a character, and the character says, okay, you're going to be moving across this conveyor belt, and you need to right at the perfect instance, you need to press A to activate the switch. Okay, are you ready? And you're like, yes, I'm ready. Here we go. I'm going to press A right at the exact moment. So you're scrolling across this conveyor belt, and you've got your finger on the A button, and you're all ready to press it, right? Like, that's the setup of the joke. But then the like turn in the joke is that he calls you back on the phone and pulls up the text box again. And he's like, hey, it's me again. I just wanted to... And then because the text box is active, pressing A advances the text box instead of pressing the switch. Right. So no matter what, your character will miss the switch because you're on the phone talking to this guy again. And he's like, oh, never mind. I figured out a way to remotely activate the switch. Like, don't even worry about it. Like, yes, that's so good. Like, it's like, I love the like the setup and the misdirection that happens in that joke. Like, extremely good. Undertale is good at jokes and stories.
The Undertale, like, I still have yet to finish that. Primarily because of all those reasons you stated, and the fact that what it's led me, if I could say in one brief statement, it's that I do not trust that game.
Okay.
I just don't trust it. What
do you mean?
Everything about it. I just like everything I think is real is not.
Yeah.
And
yes.
And it's like I'm like, what are you? And it's because of that I've lost like trust in the game, and I just can't play.
That game counts on the fact that you've played lots of games like it, and and always subverts your expectations. Very good.
Very good game though. Yeah. Okay. Now we have arrived at our number ones, and again I have a lot of difficulty choosing one game in this series created by these people.
Yep.
But I will again say it as anything by Quantic Dream.
Oh, wow. I could not disagree more. Okay, go ahead.
Okay. I guess I consider me a Quantic Dream fanboy. Yes, I mean, obviously some of the games are better than others, but overall, I will play any Quantic Dream game and really quite enjoy. I think if I had to land on one, I mean, obviously a lot of people would probably say Detroit Become Human, but that's just because it's newer, and so it's got a lot, more to it. But remembering like my first playthrough of Heavy Rain was really, really enjoyable, and that's what's funny about all these games is my wife is not a gamer by any stretch of the imagination, but she can actually, for the most part, enjoy sitting down next to me and playing these games. They're so cinematic, and the inputs are so, there's like very little HUD and everything in these games, so it really is like you're watching a movie, but you're actively making decisions and interacting with the characters. So she will oftentimes sit with me as I play these games and then like make decisions and say like, oh, you should say this or you should say that. Yeah, and like if there's one theme in all of my stories, it's about like multi endings and decision making.
Yeah, so, that is true. That is Those games also have a lot of decisions that'll affect the outcome of your story. So.
What's your beef?
I would say start with Heavy Rain and probably end with Heavy Rain.
What?
I really like Heavy Rain. Indigo Prophecy, I did not finish. I thought that game was inconsistent. There were some good parts and some bad parts. Beyond Two Souls was a train wreck. That game was a disaster.
Oh, I don't know.
That game was Oh my gosh, that game was irredeemably bad. What did you like about Beyond Two Souls?
I don't know. It had like kind of like a cool like I mean, it wasn't as good, but
No, it was not as good.
it was like watching like a Rotten Tomatoes like 60% movie.
It was everything that was like bad about Heavy Rain, and then they just made a whole game of it.
Uh,
I did not like the characters. I did not like the like everything in that plot was so contrived and like oh my gosh.
okay,
Yeah,
but
it was
here's my problem too. Is I think I also get these people confused with who made Until Dawn.
Supermassive and Quantic Dreams definitely share a lot of DNA. I think Supermassive is almost certainly inspired by a lot of David Cage's work. I liked I think Until Dawn was great.
Yeah, that's great.
I mean, it's very campy and silly, but like so are a lot of horror movies
Right.
that it's
It
drawing
did that on
inspiration
purpose.
from.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So oftentimes like I think mentally I throw in Until Dawn into that the makers of all the other games we were talking about. Like,
Yeah, two different studios.
But nonetheless, that's why I think I do put a little bit more. I say like any game because they have like Until Dawn, but they don't. Okay, but still, Detroit Become Human is really good too.
Have you been playing that?
Yeah, I played it, and I've gotten like 2 of the endings.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I was so turned off by Beyond Two Souls that I vowed to not play Detroit Become Human.
Wow.
You are the first person who has reported back good things about that game. I've heard a lot of negative things about that game.
I mean, it's not like mind breaking amazing or anything, but it's like an enjoyable. You just kind of play through the story. They have a lot of cool actors. It's like I don't know. Okay, at worst, I feel like all of the games by Quantic Dream are like movies that you would watch on like cable TV. That
yeah,
kind of like a rerun of an old movie.
So if you want to just sit down and have a very low investment interactive movie, yeah, okay.
I mean, it's not like
that's fair.
These aren't like the greatest game in the world, but I just find that maybe it's kind of the format too. I really enjoy just kind of interacting with the story and seeing what happens.
I love that stuff too. I love just really whatever high cinematic stuff if that's done well, which I think Heavy Rain has. I mean, there's some bad stuff in Heavy Rain too, but that has a higher batting average than the rest of Quantic Dreams games. I would not categorically recommend their entire catalog. I would say Heavy Rain is a good place to start, and probably and actually if you like Heavy Rain, probably go play Until Dawn.
Yeah, I mean that might be my 2 best recommendations too.
Yeah. Those 2 games are good. Anyway, right. Whoa, we spent a lot of time on that. My number 1 is extremely well known in contrast to the other 4 games on my list, which are probably not as well known. It is a story that I think oh god, how long has it been? Even 20 years later, people are still obsessing about, to the point where we now have a remake in the works. That is Final Fantasy VII. And I mean, so we said like story-based games, and I think Final Fantasy VII is obviously a JRPG, but I think one of the main reasons people still talk about that game and still remember that game are for all of the story beats, right? Because people talk about like, oh my gosh, the first time that I knew Aerith was going to die and I lost a party member.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah. Well, the game's 20 years old now, and if you haven't played it, go play it before I spoil the rest of it. But yeah, all of the big things, Cloud realizing that, he's not who he thinks he was. And there's a lot of good reveals in that game that I think, and also the characters are very memorable. The cast of characters are very good.
Yeah, they did a very good job with their kind of like character kind of development, I guess you would say.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think, I mean, obviously, so many people played that game. That was such a big hit, both here in America, and then obviously in Japan as well. I mean, it's the game that, for the large part, is credited with popularizing the JRPGs, the Japanese role playing games in America, and I think a lot of that has to do with the big. A lot of that has to do with the story in the game.
Yeah, and then that really set the stage for really the greatest Final Fantasy JRPG release, which is Final Fantasy VIII. Right after. So, yeah.
We'll stick with Final Fantasy.
We'll discuss that. Yeah. We'll discuss Final Fantasy at a later time.
We'll do our top 5 Final Fantasies on another episode. All right. We are running long again. Do you have any endorsements?
Real quick, in about three days, something like that. I may or may not be counting down here. Shenmue, the HD release, will be out.
Yes.
So I'm sure by the time you're listening to this podcast, you probably already have the ability to go and play Shenmue 1 and 2 on your Xbox One or PS4, and I highly recommend you do that. Or PC, yes. Now that being said, I don't know how good these HD remakes are going to be, and I'm a little scared that there might be some bugginess and stuff, but we'll see. Maybe they patch some stuff up, and really recommend playing those games.
It can't be much worse than having to track down a Dreamcast emulator or a Dreamcast to play the game. So
yeah. I mean, I feel like it's got to be better than the Dreamcast emulator.
And
that is very buggy.
We will certainly be discussing Shenmue on a upcoming episode. So go ahead and get that game played if you haven't already, because that will almost definitely be a topic on a future episode.
Yes.
I am going to endorse a television program. It is a television program on HBO. So if you have HBO, good. If you don't, then find one of your friends that has HBO and get their password. It is a television program called Last Week Tonight with John Oliver. It is a weekly half-hour long comedy show, similar in format to The Daily Show with Jon Stewart. Or, well, I guess Jon Stewart's no longer running it. Obviously, it's Trevor Noah, I guess, is doing it now.
Yeah.
And obviously, John Oliver used to be on The Daily Show. He was one of Jon Stewart's proteges. But I really enjoy the format of John Oliver's show. He'll have, similar to us, he'll have like a main topic and then something else he likes to discuss. But his main topics are extremely thoroughly researched, and he kind of goes on he gets on his soapbox and explains the circumstances of a certain issue, and then why that issue is problematic, and then what, if anything, people can do to address that issue. So, it's I mean, similar to The Daily Show, it's extremely political. So if that is not your bag, that's understood. But if you don't mind that and enjoy some informative topics with some humor sprinkled in, I would recommend Last Week Tonight with John Oliver.
And I'm a very humorous person, so when it comes to, how do we talk about serious issues that we shouldn't laugh about, I love to laugh about them. So that appeals to me very heavily.
Okay, cool. Well, next week I want to discuss either Monster Hunter World or Octopath Traveler. Are you interested in either of those? Because
I mean, I think it would be fun to talk about Monster Hunter World, just because I don't know. We talk a lot about really good games on this podcast. And it might be
shots fired!
Might be good
fired
to warn our listeners.
Wow! All right. Well, next episode we'll be discussing Monster Hunter World. Apparently. So for this episode of the Good Games Podcast, I am James,
and I'm Leo.
And we will see you next time. Goodbye.
See ya.
My number one is probably a little more well known. Whoa.
That was number 2.
Okay.
You just said number 1.
Yeah, I go first. I started.
No.
So I
started with Wolf Among Us.
Did I skip something?
You must have.
What happened? What?
What's your number 2?
Oh, no, I gave my number 2 before my number 3.
Oh, my God.
I'm a dummy.
Oh, boy.
I'm going to have to edit this or something.
Oh, boy.